That's what faith is. Knowing something, believing it be true, and trusting yourself to it. And you have to have all three of those if it's going to be true faith. And so I sort of tell a little story about a little girl. She wasn't very big, and she's looking for her father, and all around the house looking for her father, calling out, "Daddy, Daddy!" And then she heard his voice. She went into the room, and there was a trapdoor, and underneath the floor was another room, a cellar, as it's called. And he was down in this dungeon-type room, down in this cellar underneath the floor. And she came over and she looked down and said, "Are you down there, Daddy?" "Yes, I'm here, dear." "I couldn't find you." "Oh, I'm here. Jump down and I'll catch you." "I can't see you." "No, but you can hear me. You know I'm here." "You believe I would catch you. I wouldn't drop you. You're so precious to me. Jump and I'll catch you." "It's all dark, Daddy." "Jump and I will catch you." "All right, Daddy. I'm coming." And she jumped. She knew he was there. She believed he'd catch her, but faith wasn't. She hadn't put faith in Daddy until she jumped. And when she jumped, he caught her. And she ran round and up the stairs. "Here I come again, Daddy!" Until he got tired of playing that game and said, "That's enough." The second jump was easy. The first one was an act of faith. She had to trust her father's word. And that's what faith is, knowing something, believing it be true, and trusting yourself to it. And I want to tell you about a man who showed what faith was. And here he is. He sat there every day. Whether it was cold or wet or windy or hot, didn't matter. He sat there every day because he was a beggar. He'd been born blind. And you probably already guessed who it is. Born blind. And the only way he could get enough money was to sit there in the gateway of Jericho. Spare a coin for the poor blind man, spare a coin." Every day he'd sit there calling out to people, asking them to give him some money to sustain him. Just probably getting enough to buy enough food to last for the day, so that he'd be back there next day calling out again to people who passed by. Spare a coin for a poor blind man. And perhaps there's some people, in fact, surely some people who did go past would drop a coin in his bowl. And if they did, he probably said, "Thank you, kind sir. Take a blind man's blessing with you. Spare a coin, all day long." He probably had a voice like a foghorn. You don't even know what a foghorn is, but a loud voice, And he had a lot of practice shouting out, begging on the street. One day, he heard not just one person coming, but a whole crowd of people. And they were all excited about something. And they're all talking, and they're all chattering, and they're all rushing, and they're all jabbering away, and they're all sort of hurrying past. And he might have been calling out for them to give him some money, but no one took any notice because they're all rushing and hurrying and running along the road. And he said, "Hey, what's happening? What's happening? What's going on? Why are so many people coming to town? What's happening?" "Bartimaeus, that was his name. Have you ever heard of Jesus?" "Of course, yes, I've heard of Jesus." Now, we don't know how he had heard of Jesus, but we can assume that Jesus was talked about. He would have heard people, he couldn't see, but he had good ears. He would have heard people talking about Jesus. Perhaps he had heard people talking about someone who'd been healed of leprosy or healed of blindness like himself. But he must have heard about Jesus. Have you ever heard about Jesus? He's coming to town today. Coming here! Coming to town to Jericho. Yes, he's coming here today. And as they're coming down out of the city, he started to shout out because he knew that somewhere in that crowd, even though he couldn't see him, was Jesus. And so he started shouting at the top of his lungs, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me!" Who's making all that noise? Hey, you beggar, you keep your mouth shut. They couldn't shut him up. Because you see, they were blind. They hadn't realised who Jesus was. They hadn't realised that Jesus could do the impossible. And so because this man was being a nuisance, they tried to shut him up and stop him shouting. But he only shouted, Lord Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me! Oh, the noise of him. And then he heard somebody speak to him. And this person said, stop shouting now, blind man. Jesus has sent me to take you to him. And the Bible says he jumped up. He was so excited. And when he jumped up, he left his coat behind. He left his coat behind. Now, think about that. This blind man jumped up and left his coat behind. If anything showed that this man had faith in Jesus and faith to believe that Jesus could do the impossible, was the fact that he left his coat behind. Because a blind man can't take off his coat and leave it there. I mean, if we just said, well, you bring it, and everyone could go and get their chairs, they knew what was their stuff, and bring it back, because we can see, we can find what is ours. But a blind person can't find his belongings again if he loses them. However would he find that coat if he went away? But he left his coat behind. And that showed that he really believed in Jesus. He had faith. He knew about Jesus. He called him the Son of David. And he called for help. He believed that Jesus could do it. And so when he jumped up, excited, he left his old coat there and pushed his way through the crowd, so excited. And Jesus said to him, what do you want me to do for you? Isn't that clear? Isn't that obvious? Surely Jesus knew what was wrong with him. But he wanted that man to say it himself. He wanted that man to ask. He wanted that man to actually verbally say what he needed. What do you want me to do for you? He didn't miss a beat. He had complete and absolute faith in Jesus. And he said, Lord, I'd like my eyesight, please. Certainly, you've got it. Your faith has healed you. And the next minute, the light shone in. Remember, this man had been born blind. Some people might have gone through their childhood all able to see and then go blind for some reason or other and look at it, oh yes, it's just like it used to be. But this man had never seen a tree as beautiful as that one. He'd never seen an eagle flying. He'd never seen a fly buzzing past his ear. He'd heard them, but he'd never seen until that moment. Imagine his excitement. Oh, look at me. Oh, look. I can see. Oh, look at this dog. Oh, look at it. Oh, he must have been dancing a jig, so excited. And it says in the Bible that when Jesus went on down the road away from Jericho, this man followed him. He followed Jesus in the way. I guess he was jumping and skipping and laughing and shouting and just enjoying the wonder of being healed of his blindness. And when we're healed of our blindness, our spiritual blindness, isn't it a joy? But this man, Bartimaeus, was a man who was an example of faith. He was a man who had faith. Now, the Bible does not tell us whether he went back to pick up his coat. Told us that he left it there, but it doesn't tell us whether he went back to pick up his coat. It finishes with, he followed Jesus in the way. He might have gone back and picked it up, we don't know. Or he might have left it there, lying in the gateway. If he did, then people coming past could have said, oh, look at that old coat. Hey, that used to belong to Bartimaeus. Isn't it amazing what Jesus was able to do? Heal him, a man had been blind. He must be the Son of God to be able to do something as wonderful as that. Bartimaeus' coat, if it was left lying there, would have been a testimony to the power of Jesus as the Son of God.